It was only until I heard "I love you, bro," and looked down that I had fear for my life. And that was huge for me, because that is actually most of the time what happens with people when they have either cut or they've whatever attempted. A lot of them have an immediate regret about what they're doing. And so for me and for Aaron, it was a simple yet powerful message saying, "I love you, bro." Just a reminder to him that, dude, a perfect stranger loves you. We're all dealing with a lot of BS, but there are people out here who just seriously love you and want the best.
Well, Joe Tuia'ana, welcome to the D for the Dope podcast, man. Thanks for coming down. It's been, probably a year.
Yeah.
If you didn't say that, though, I would have guessed 6 months. But now I'm like, no, it was last year.
I feel like it was last year. Yeah. But it does only feel like, now that we're sitting here, only 6 months.
I like the hoodie.
Thanks, man. Well, it's actually just a shirt over.
Oh, the shirt of the. Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah. Awesome things happening, man.
Let's hear an update.
Awesome
One, let's start with a quick background, just a minute or two, and then let's dive into the
Awesome.
I Love You Bro project.
So we're almost coming up on 2 years since that. I had this beautiful, terrible, just life-changing moment, with the suicide prevention. Where I like to say I loved a man off the ledge, so to speak. And so almost 2 years since that happened. And when I rolled up to this guy on the ledge, it was one of those things where I'm a single dad, full-time single dad. My kids were with me, and we're on our way to a basketball game. And, I had pneumonia at the time. I was pretty ornery. I just gotten over COVID, and we were, what do they call that? Where you quarantining? We just got done quarantining. Anyway, so went over this overpass and saw this dude standing on the ledge of, or I should say, not quite. He rolled up, parked his car on this overpass, and started climbing over the fence.
And this is in
Lehigh, yeah,
over the Highway 15.
Yeah. And so I was like, dude, we got to get to a basketball. Honestly, we got to get to a basketball game. I feel like crap. I don't really have.
Was it very apparent when you first saw him? Like, oh, he's getting ready to do something.
It wasn't. It wasn't apparent. It was peculiar.
Yeah. And
I think that it actually kind of describes people in a suicide crisis in general. They actually, it's peculiar. It's not necessarily like this, this moment. It's, and so when we showed up, he had just parked his car on the overpass and was walking on this, and it's just peculiar. Like, what is this guy doing? And so we kind of went slow. Again, I'm in a rush. I want to get to this basketball game. And my kids were like, "Dad, just, can we just slow down just to make sure everything's okay?" So we slow down a little bit. I'm like, okay. And then I see this dude ninja jump over this fence on the other side. And he's standing there. I'm like, oh, man. So my kids scream. I zipped around, parked behind his car on the overpass. And, I told my oldest daughter, to call the police, told my kids in the back, just chill. I'll take care of this. And, like saying the story kind of makes me wonder what my kids were thinking at the time. Like, my kids probably were thinking, okay, well, Dad's got this, like he's got everything else, that's what he does, kind of a thing. Bro, I closed that door. And my first impression was like, I'm going to puke all over this freeway or this overpass. And then that turned to like, I'm going to pass out. And I started sweating. I have my own anxiety problems. That's why I carry this around, because I sweat profusely. And then everything in my brain started saying, you're not good enough for this. Call someone who can really help you. You're going to make things worse. And I said a quick little prayer saying, oh, please, God, let this guy know that he's loved. And then I said a sudden, not a ton of confidence, but more confidence, and then started walking towards him. I'm like, dude, I'm a big guy, 6'3", 300-pound dude. I could easily just make this worse being who I am, walking towards him. And I'm thinking, what way could I be more submissive and less intimidating? So I thought just to open my arms to him, and I wanted to give him a hug. And I started walking towards him and got to him, and man, he was just crying, and he had these big crocodile tears falling off his face to the freeway, and I could feel, and I started crying, And so I got beneath him where he could hear me. And I held up my arms to him and I said, I love you, bro. I love you, bro. Just over and over. And you know how time kind of stands still, but goes like a million miles an hour. It feels like one of those weird matrix moments where he started looking between the freeway and me. And then he started, frantically, and I was like, oh, this is not happening. So I jumped up there, bro, like I was freaking 18, grabbed this dude, picked him up over the fence, put him in my arms, and then we just slid down this little concrete barrier that was to the sidewalk. And I just held him like he was one of my kids and, cried with him. But it was a powerful, powerful experience. And we had this piece for I want to say a minute or something. And it was so perfect. And then people started showing up.
Yeah.
Police started showing up. And I like to think of it now as I tell the story, is just society started showing up to this. And the first lady, bro, that showed up, she was she was second. There's a dude who showed up. First thing he says his name's Aaron, this guy, why would you want to do something like this? And the next lady shows up, do you have family? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, what would your family think if you just started shaming this dude like he already doesn't feel shamed enough or at his lowest point, just happening right there. And I feel like that's how society really is in a lot of ways towards suicide, but specifically towards men. And so
there's that, and there is I've heard that before. If you commit suicide, that's selfish. But isn't it selfish to say that? If they're in that much pain that they feel like that's their only escape, isn't that selfish by you trying to keep them around you don't, you know what I mean? I think it's a very hypocritical. Anyways, that just kills me to think that man just went through that and then assumed, what about your family? What about, it's just thinking, they're thinking about their own problems. They're not thinking about other people. It's unbearable. That's why they're there. They can't deal with their own problems. So,
they got to, you figure in his situation, and as I've gotten to know him, it's been awesome because I've been able to hear his side of the story.
Yeah.
And what he was going through at the time and what led up to that. And so with society, I feel like, thank you, Lord, that I could only say I love you, bro.
Yeah.
Because, again, just a normal dude. My name is Joe, but I consider myself the average Joe. Just showing up just happens to be here. I'm not certified, educated, degreed at all about mental health. But at the moment, I, just happened to say the right thing and do the right thing. And it just happened to work for him. And so it's what he needed. And it may not work for everyone. That may not have worked for everyone. But I'd like to preach that certainly that's a good first step, is just saying I love you. And so when, after this, creating the I Love You Bro project was specifically to address Aaron's needs that he, at the time. And so that kind of shoved me in the arena of mental health. You've been in it for a while. I hadn't really. We all know somebody who's died by suicide, whether that be a friend or a loved one. But I think for them, it's, or for a lot of them, they you have you experience this sadness and this grief, and then you kind of move on with life, and then it gets kind of brushed to the side with a lot of other things in life. But for me, bro, it was this divine experience where this is what you are going to do for the rest of your life.
And I like that you said a divine experience. And when I was asking, like, was it obvious of what he was going to do? And you said no, but you stopped anyway. So I do feel like there's something else instinctual or divine.
Yes.
Pushing. The other thing, like, if I'm in the car with my 3 kids and I kind of don't know what's happening, how easy is it just to be like, oh, there's a lot of cars behind me. I'm in a hurry. I don't feel good, this or that. Or what if I do know what he's going to do? And what if it happens and my kids are watching it now? And now I'm going to put that on my, like for you to just stop everything. I mean, I'm like getting the chills over here.
It does every time for me too.
That's amazing that you did that.
Well, I think I'm a big believer that we all have, since I'm not formally educated when it comes to mental health, but I do consider myself somewhat of a professional human being when it comes to compassion and empathy. And I think in general, most people are, they want to do the right thing, but for whatever reason, like you were saying, there are so many outside influences that could have changed that event. And I'm so glad that I did, because it was a powerful, also not equally as powerful as the love I had for him, but just about where I was thinking, dude, you're going to screw this up. And the kids are right there, like 20 feet, or like, we can see this. It's happening right here. What's happening in the movies, it's going to happen to my kids. And there's nothing that, in this voice, there's nothing that you can do about it. And I am one of those types where I'm like, nah, dude, this is not happening. I'm, if you want to call it competitive or you want to call it whatever it is. But it started when I did pray, it really did start there for me to actually have some confidence.
Leadership instead of competitive, maybe.
Maybe that is. I'm
going to take control of the situation. Yeah. It's kind of like, I'm going to put it on me. I'm going to take the responsibility.
No,
which I think is
that.
a great
I think that's
leadership.
Perfect. And that is kind of, I would never wish anyone to be in that situation. It seriously, bro, it was one where I felt that I was already pretty low, physically, emotionally. I was in no place to be that guy. I checked none of the boxes, but I like to show after this happened, I asked my daughter, do you still want to go to the basketball game? Mind you, we were surrounded by people, and I'm totally out of energy. I'm just a zombie. And she says, sure. So we end up going to this basketball game for the session. We made it their second half. She plays. I don't know how. I'm sitting there like a zombie. And I made a goal with my oldest daughter. Hey, as soon as we're done with this game, we're going to go to Lehigh Legacy Center. We're going to get a gym pass because I got to start working out. And she goes, after the game, we're on our way to home. And she's like, no, we got to go to the Legacy Center in Lehigh and we got to get that gym pass. And I'm like, oh man, you got to be kidding me, And she goes, no, we have to, Dad. We got to, or whenever. So we go. And there's this picture. I still keep the gym pass. We end up having some equipment at home that we use, but I end up keeping this picture of me. And I've got these sunglasses on, this beanie, this Bears hoodie, just ghetto Hawaiian shorts, flip-flops. And this is January,
sure, man.
Bro, this is January, all happened. And there's just this pathetic, person just sitting there and just and they take a picture of me. It's got my name, Lehigh Legacy Center, and I take it. And it was only till recently I found the pass, and I'm like, that person, I can't believe, was able to do that for that guy. And it just goes to show that it may appear that we don't have a lot of the boxes checked. We probably don't. Yeah. And I feel like that experience created boxes for me to check. Sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't, man. It's just the way it is. It's the way our mental health works. But since then, I have gotten closer to Aaron. This new story of this went viral. I was on MSNBC, Fox News. I did an interview with this very nice Chinese reporter calling from China. It was incredible. And as I've gotten to know him, he told me these things that he was missing that day. And that he said, I've been loved by my family. I feel like my mom loves me. I feel like my family loves me. But I did not feel real love until I heard you say I love you, bro. And of course, I'm just like, he's telling me this over the phone one night, and I'm just crying and feeling all these feels. And he said, the reason why I ended up going there is because I thought about just taking a drive might help me. And that's actually a fairly good coping way to cope with some of those powerful feelings. But he ended up driving to the overpass and seeing it and then thinking with an assurity, like, I'm going to die. That's the way I want to die. And then when he jumped over the fence and he said he had all of this noise. He's a Micronesian dude. He speaks good English, but not perfect. And the way he's describing it to me, it made it even more powerful to me, actually. He said there was so much noise in my brain and my head, just almost like screaming at me, and the noise of the overpass and the cars. And I just wanted to get rid of the noise, and this was the way to do it. I had no fear at all, and I was about to, and it was only until I heard "I love you, bro," and looked down that I had fear for my life. And that was huge for me, because that is actually most of the time what happens with people when they have either cut or they've whatever attempted. A lot of them have an immediate regret about what they're doing. And so for me and for Aaron, it was a simple yet powerful message saying, I love you, bro. Just a reminder to him that, dude, a perfect stranger loves you. And we're all dealing with a lot of BS, but there are people out here who just seriously love you and want the best for you.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And thanks for having that, not the competitiveness, but the leadership, bro.
I'm going to start saying that.
I'm a competitive guy. So how has that changed your life now? I mean, this is what you focus on, right? What were you doing before versus what you're doing now?
That's huge. That's a big question. So at the time, I have a normal full-time job. I work for a 3PL, a third-party logistics company. It's a good job. I work from home. I've had it for 8 years. After that experience, like I was saying, it kind of kicked me, shoved me, punched me in the mouth into this arena of mental health. And again, I've had close people die by suicide, but it's average Joe. We move on, and that's just it. This particular experience, I feel like I could not, again, this divine, intervention, but I could not escape it. I couldn't. This was my life now, and it kind of started steamrolling since that story went viral. We had the Department of Health and Human Services for the state of Utah reached out to me, and they go, "Joe, we heard some language in the news story that you were in that we just loved." And it was, it said something along the lines of, there's no playbook to follow for anyone who's in a suicide crisis. And they took that language and they're like, let's make one. And so they called me in and I beta tested, helped them create this, it's called a Live On Utah Suicide Prevention Playbook. And it's 10 5-minute lessons on how to look for things, how to listen for things and questions you can ask. Makes it a little easier to talk about with your friends and family. And over 125,000 people have taken this.
Wow. And how do you get access to it?
So that's all through Instagram.
Okay.
So you go to, if you just search Live On Utah, it'll come right up. And they just released a Spanish version. Released a veterans version. none of this would have happened.
Yeah.
Had I ignored my, what do you call it, conscience or Jesus intuition. And so from there, I'm like, wow. And then it got to a point, bro, where I was saying this story, and it's a beautiful story. But then it got to a point where I was asking myself, why did it even need to get to an overpass? Mm-hmm. Why did it have to get so bad for this guy that there's even an overpass story? Yep. Why? Why is that the case? I went home and I Googled men's mental health, Utah. And I found some retreat-based programs that were, $2,000 to $5,000. You escape to the mountains, rah for a week or whatever. I'm not hating, that's just what they were. But I found nothing that is, if I were in a crisis, of course, I'm gonna, I know that I can call 988 if I'm in a crisis. But what if I'm just struggling? Where can I go as a guy? Who can help me as a man? Excuse me. And there's nothing. Uh-huh. And so I said, okay, I'm going to take these things that he needed. Aaron needed connection. He didn't have it. He had no one to call on, no one to connect with, no one to lean on. He felt ashamed. Mm-hmm. The second thing is he had no knowledge of his own, how to help himself, no tools, no skills to help himself in suicide or an emotional crisis. So I said, you know what, frick, if this is not available, I'm going to make it available. So again, average Joe, I called up clinician friends of mine that I've made through the Live On Project and asked them, started picking at their brains on, what can I do? This is what I want to do.
Yep.
As it's almost this is a business, This is what I want to do. What do I need from a clinical side to make sure that this works and is evidence-based? And so they started giving me a list of things. Support groups are, surely we have statistics on those and the data proves that this, that, and the other. So I said, that's one thing I'm going to do. And I can do that right now. Yeah. Free. And so I started, I got some donated space from us for us in Provo, and I started what we call the Courage to Bro groups. And these groups are for men to come and to leave their masks at the door. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about. The dad mask, that dirty dough mask, that business mask, that alpha male mask. You can leave that at the door, that stuff at the door. This is a place where we come, we vent what we're struggling with, and then we can learn from our mutual experience and struggles with each other. But the main thing is we can connect. And I know that I may not hang out with this guy who I met here, but man, I see him every Wednesday. Yeah. And I know my relationship with that guy is specifically if I'm struggling, that I can lean on that guy. So that's what these Courage to Bro groups are, is we're making connections.
I think a lot of it is that's amazing that you're doing that, the support that's needed. But other than that, I think we just need to know that we're not the only ones struggling. I think that's so important in this social media society that everybody's perfect. And it's just like, no, you go find me one person that in the last year hasn't had some major trial that they're just barely got through. It's like you can't find them,
You can't.
But you don't think that. Everybody thinks, oh, I'm the only one. I'm the only one that feels this way. I'm the only one that struggles with this. And it's like, no,
you're not.
You're not. And it's just part of the human experience.
Yes.
And just normalizing that, I think, is such a big need. Not like, hey, let me support you. Yes, of course. But just so you know, we're all experiencing hell right now. Yeah. We'll get through it together. I'll support you, you support me. But just so you know, life sucks a lot of times. A lot of times.
Well, we live in a world where we are quick to say, if you need something, let me know.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? Because someone who is struggling, that's the last thing on their mind is letting you know. No one's saying, oh, John said, man, if I needed him, and since I'm in an emotional crisis, I could call on John. He's going to understand. that's just not the way, like you're saying, that's just not the way the world works, how life is. And so with the I Love You Bro project, it's specifically called I Love You Bro project. It's not the I Understand You Bro project. It's not the I know exactly what you're going through bro project. It's because we're all unique, and we're all, our troubles and trials are so special to us. And I may not understand what you're going through, but I'm here to listen, bro. I got you, bro. And I love you, And I know you and I obviously have shared some deep stuff before, and it is a world where, okay, we see Bennett, Dirty Dough, so successful, and he's got money, and he's just, wow, look at all the great things he's doing. And with a filter, it's so easy for people to be able to be like, that is the life that I need. And if I don't have it, then I must be failing somewhere. And specifically as a man, I don't make as much money. I don't have that hunter mentality, and I can tell you, for me, I am a hunter, but I have learned to be a gatherer. Yeah. I cherish being a gatherer. I am there for my kids, emotional and spiritual and empathy and compassion. Those things are such a part about. And then really when we talk about mental health, we're just simply reprogramming what we were taught at a young age. That's what mental health is. We were taught bullcrap back in the day, all growing up. And now it's on us to be able to make sure that our kids in our home, our kids can feel and see the transparency. My kids know I cry more than anyone, bro. Seriously, they do. That's just the way I am. And that's,
And again, as soon as they see you cry, that subconsciously that gives them permission. Oh, it's okay to cry. Like, yes. It's okay to have those feelings where, again, I mean, I didn't grow up like that. And I assume that you, like, no, you don't cry. I started crying. I mean, I would just say, I've been married for 8 years, up until maybe a year and a half ago when I started diving more into mental health and plant medicine, some psychedelics, things like that. My wife had seen me cry one time, and my kids never. Wow. And what kind of shitty example was that to tell them, hey, I'm just going to pretend like everything's fine. Yep. And it's
you're wearing a mask.
Wearing the mask. Where you look at the vulnerability and how much it has increased the closeness in the relationship, not only with my wife, but also my kids.
Yes.
To be able to cry with your 5-year-old on the couch while you're watching a movie or something like that and talk about her emotions for that, that's just such a different mindset growing up. And anyways, I think it's super important just to show people that vulnerability is not only okay, but the more that we're vulnerable, the more we give permission to other people to be vulnerable.
It's a necessity.
And it's just an upward cycle rather than the other thing is suppressed emotions is a down or down. Yep.
Push it down, man.
And then, hey, I don't cry, so that means probably everything's perfect. And you also shouldn't cry and just ignore shit. And it's just like,
well, I mean, I mentioned, how successful you are, but I know you've had your struggles and how, and
you asked me how I'm doing. I said, it's hell.
Yeah, it's hell. It is. It's
right now is hell. Private. Right now is hell.
It's our own personal hell. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's a unique thing for us that's constantly in this mindset. And what we do, and again, most suicide prevention organizations, they're very good. They take suicide prevention in an umbrella approach, is my opinion. Meaning LGBTQ, elderly, men, women, Black people, Polynesian, we're all lumped into this umbrella. That is not the case.
Yep.
We each have individual and unique needs. So for me, I was like, well, if Aaron was struggling with this, I want Aaron encouraged to bro 3 months before the overpass. Yeah. I want him forming connections with us and building upon that. Our next phase of resources we're coming out with, it's called Let's Grow, Bro, where I'm going to have professional educators, clinicians come in a more of a classroom setting where they're going to teach us all about the shit that we're dealing with as men in life. Divorce, addiction, anger management, you name it. And then I also want to, these professionals are going to provide education for self-improvement, like everything from dietitians to proper breathing to marriage and relationships, how to listen better.
Yeah.
This is stuff we all need to learn, you know? And so I got that idea from a buddy of mine who came to me with, he had a pornography addiction. And he's like, man, I want to get help, but and there's these classes in Spanish Fork I can take, but I'm ashamed. That's a big word, ashamed. And I go, bro, I'm not ashamed of nothing, dude. I will go with you. Let's go sit down there. And I went with him to 2 classes, and bro, they were freaking awesome. Mm-hmm. They were awesome classes. Like I had no idea what pornography addiction was. They broke it down. They talked about all these different, what data said, all these different techniques that people can use. And I just went to 2 of them. He went to all the rest of them. I ended up coming back, and I had this experience with my own kid where she came to me just crying. And I said, oh, man, what's wrong, And she said, I have something I need to tell you. And I said, well, what is it? She said, I've been looking at pornography. And man, suddenly I'm like, these skills that I learned from this class start coming to my brain. And I was able to use them as I communicated with her. And we started talking it through. And of course, I start crying. But I had a big smile on my face. And she said, why are you so happy about this? And I said, it's not that I'm happy about this. It's that I'm so happy that you trusted me enough to talk to me about this. Yeah. And I think in general, mental health, everything surrounding it starts right there. That my kids felt comfortable talking to me about whatever it is. And I think you can liken it with as parents, it's so freaking easy, so tempting to be like, or whatever. But to actually, I've raised 3 daughters on my own. I've learned to listen a little bit, from it, but to actually be there, intentionally present, and intentionally wanting to hear what they have to say, because soon enough they don't want to tell you nothing when they get old enough. And so I've made that a muscle of mine that I've, flexed and built over the years. And I'm so thankful that I had from this class these tools to help her. So the Let's Grow Bro program, the I Love You Bro project we're gonna start rolling out here in the next couple of weeks. If it's talking about anger management, I don't care if you don't have an anger management problem. You should go to this class.
Learn the skills.
Learn the skills, because if it's not gonna help you, it might help your wife or your kids or a friend. These programs are to make not only guys to save their lives, but it's to help them live a better quality of life.
Yeah, I love the first thing as you're telling me that story with your daughter was awesome that you had those skills, but way more impressive is that she came to you and that she felt that she could, and it's like, how do you develop that? Then yes, let's go get the skills, and let's always get those skills. But that first step is so much more critical on just doing it. I mean, like creating that space, or like the overpass story. I mean, you weren't qualified, according to you weren't qualified.
I wasn't.
But who the hell cares? Like you just took action, and you're just there offering to help. The other thing that I wanted to. What'd you say? You said it's the I Love You Bro project, not the I understand you or I get you or whatever. And it's like, I really like that, because you don't need to understand somebody. You don't need to know their whole story to just love them. Absolutely. And that's part of what love is, and just like all that, who cares? Like you're human, I'm a human, and I have love for you. So anyways, I love what you're doing.
Oh, man.
I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks.
You coming on and sharing this.
Yeah, we have, we're still in, we're in the process of hopefully getting some pretty good funding, hopefully. But eventually we'll have the ideas that we'll have a Courage to Bro and Let's Grow Bro accessible within a 25-minute drive of everyone around Utah. I want to have, multiple places, probably have a mothership here in Lehigh or American Fork. But to have a place where this is for, I had one guy say, "Hey, can I bring my wife?" And I was like, "God bless you, man." You know what? I love that you have that relationship with her, but this is your time. Yep. This is your time. This is your hour and a half to just talk. And it doesn't have to be about your wife. It can be about whatever's ailing you. And so as we grow, and we're getting ready to open our West Jordan Courage to Bro. And we meet Wednesday nights, 7:30 to 9. Sometimes it goes later, man. You would be shocked on these masks that guys leave at the door and they come in and the things they share. My heart breaks a little bit every time they share it, but I think it needs to break. Society's heart needs to break for these guys, needs to break for us. It needs to break for mental health, because that's the only way that we're going to get some serious focus and attention, bro.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. Last question for you.
Man.
What's the legacy that you want to leave behind? How does Joe want to be remembered by?
I just want to be. I would love to be remembered as the guy who listened, the guy who loved. Those two things for me, man. I had the best compliment I ever had, bro. I had a guy who I was getting ready to leave we moved from Orem to Lehigh, and in our church, our Samoan church, I had one of my buddies say, one thing I love about Joe is that he never, no matter what text or call or any in person, every time he ends the conversation, he says, "I love you, bro." And I'm like, God, that's a great compliment.
That is. I
would love for people when they remember me.
That's a great legacy, yeah.
Just to say, wow, that guy, I may not remember if other people love me, but I know that Joe did.
Yeah.
Because he reminded me all the time. That's what I would love.
I love that. Okay, that was the last podcast question. This is the other last question. How do people connect with you? You mentioned Let's Grow Bro.
Courage to Bro.
Oh, Courage to Bro.
So Courage to Bro.
Let's Grow Bro is coming up.
Yeah, that's come. So we have Courage to Bro, our men support groups. So they
tell us that, and also how listeners can connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So our Courage to Bro groups, they meet every Wednesday in Provo. Every Wednesday, 7:30 to 9. If you are interested in joining us, just go to iloveyoubro.net. And the way you can check out our events tab, you see all the different things we have. You can register to come to whatever you feel like you need. Those are every Wednesday, and then we're going to be starting our West Jordan location, Courage to Bro, the 28th of this month. And so I know what I'm doing Thanksgiving Eve, too. I asked the guys, some of these guys don't have families, and I said, "Do you guys want me to come?" And they're like, "Yes." And so Wednesday before, man, I'm going to show up. We're going to have this. We're going to talk it out, man. And we're just, it's so exciting and refreshing for me. And so, but I do invite, if you're hearing this, and especially if you're struggling, whatever it is you're struggling with, check out iloveyoubro.net. Come join us for a Courage to Bro, either in Provo or in West Jordan for now. And then we'll have Let's Grow Bro coming up beginning of December, where we're going to start really learning. We're connecting, and then we're learning. And so our first class, I think, is going to be about marriage. So a little lighter than some of the other ones are. Yeah. So we're going to ease into those heavier subjects. But anyway, though, I really appreciate it, bro.
Okay.
You're a great example. Thanks for being you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.